long before the first seed was planted by human hands, before fields were carved into the landscape, and before agriculture transformed civilization. Earth produced its own extraordinary foods. They grew in forests untouched by cultivation, in swamps thick with mist, and across landscapes that no longer exist. Some were protected inside leathery husks. Others developed fleshy coverings around seeds, perhaps attracting ancient animals that vanished millions of years ago. Some may have stored nutrients in roots, stems, or underground organs unlike anything harvested today. These were the forgotten foods of prehistoric Earth. They were not crops, they were not domesticated, and no human ever saw them alive. Their flavors are unknown. Their textures can only be guessed. Their nutritional value remains a mystery. Yet they were part of a vast botanical world that flourished for millions of years before, disappearing forever. To understand these lost foods, it is necessary to look far beyond the origins of agriculture and into a much deeper history, one in which plants were already experimenting with forms and strategies that would eventually shape life on land. For most of Earth's history, plants reproduced without flowers or fruits. Early land plants relied on spores, tiny structures released into the air and dependent on moisture to complete their life cycle. Mosses, liverworts, and primitive vascular plants dominated these ancient ecosystems. Over time, some plants evolved seeds. This innovation changed everything. Seeds protected the embryo, supplied stored nutrients, and allowed reproduction without standing water. They enabled plants to spread into new environments and survive periods of drought and instability. The earliest seed plants appeared during the late Devonian period, more than 360 million years ago. These plants did not produce fruits in the modern sense. Instead, their seeds were exposed or enclosed in protective tissues that shielded them from environmental stress. Some of these structures were rich in oils and nutrients, making them valuable food sources for ancient animals. If a human could have encountered them, some might have seemed vaguely familiar: large seed-bearing organs, fleshy coverings, or starchy tissues. But they belong to lineages that are now extinct. During the Carboniferous period, vast tropical wetlands covered much of the planet. Towering relatives of club mosses, giant horsetails, and tree ferns formed dense forests in warm, humid conditions. Many of these plants reproduced by spores, but seed-bearing groups were becoming increasingly important. The forests themselves were unlike anything on Earth today. The air contained higher oxygen levels. Massive insects moved through the vegetation. Thick peat accumulated beneath the forest floor, eventually forming the coal deposits that power much of the modern world. Among these plants were early seed ferns, a now extinct group that combined fern-like leaves with true seeds. Despite their name, seed ferns were not true ferns. They represented one of evolution's great experiments. Some produced seeds surrounded by cup-like structures or protective tissues that may have contained nutrient-rich material. These were not fruits, but they served similar reproductive functions. Entire lineages of seed ferns thrived for tens of millions of years. Then they vanished. As climates changed and ecosystems shifted, many could not adapt. Only fossils remain. By the Permian period, around 299 to 252 million years ago, Earth's continents had merged into the supercontinent Pangaea. Seasonal climates became more pronounced, and many plant groups faced increasing environmental stress. New seed plants emerged, including early conifers, cycads, and ginkgo relatives. Cycads in particular developed large cones, filled with nutrient-rich tissues and seeds. Modern cycads still exist, but they are remnants of a much more diverse and widespread group. Some extinct cycads and cycad-like plants likely produced structures with textures and chemical compositions unlike anything familiar today. Their seeds were often protected by brightly colored outer layers, suggesting interactions with animals that consumed them and dispersed them. Yet many of these species disappeared as climates shifted and competition intensified. The Triassic period began after the most severe mass extinction in Earth's history. The Permian-Triassic extinction event eliminated the majority of marine species and profoundly reshaped terrestrial ecosystems. Plants that survived entered a transformed world. Among them were conifers, cycads, Bennettitaleans, and ginkgophytes. Bennettitaleans were especially intriguing. These extinct seed plants resembled cycads, but possessed reproductive structures that in some cases superficially resembled flowers. They were abundant during the Mesozoic era and may have played important ecological roles long before flowering plants evolved. Their reproductive organs contained seeds surrounded by protective tissues that may have attracted animals. No modern plant reproduces in exactly the same way. Their lineage is gone. During the Jurassic period, these These plants flourished beneath the feet of giant dinosaurs. Dense forests spread across warm, humid landscapes. Conifers towered overhead. Cycads and Bennettitaleans filled the understory. Ferns carpeted the ground. Many plants produced cones, seeds, and fleshy tissues that supported insects and vertebrates. Some may have offered nutritional rewards to early mammals, reptiles, or dinosaurs, but their chemistry was likely very different from modern fruits and vegetables. Many cycads, for example, contain potent toxins that require specialized processing even today. Ancient species may have possessed compounds unknown to science. The foods of prehistoric Earth were not necessarily safe, sweet, or easily digestible. They evolved for survival, not for human consumption. Then came one of the most significant revolutions in plant history, the rise of flowering plants. During the early Cretaceous period, roughly 140 million years ago, the first angiosperms appeared. Scientists still debate exactly how and where they originated, but their impact was profound. Unlike earlier seed plants, angiosperms enclosed their seeds within ovaries that developed into fruits. This innovation transformed plant reproduction. Fruits protected seeds and recruited animals as dispersal partners. Early flowering plants produced small, simple fruits that were often tough and not especially sweet. They evolved in ecosystems already crowded with insects, dinosaurs, and early birds. Some fruits may have been consumed by insects, others by small vertebrates. As flowering plants diversified, so did their fruits. Evolution began experimenting with size, color, texture, and chemistry. Many forms emerged that have no modern equivalent. Some lineages survived and eventually gave rise to familiar fruits and vegetables. Many others disappeared. Entire branches of botanical history were cut short. The end Cretaceous mass extinction, around 66 million years ago, brought another global catastrophe. An asteroid impact triggered fires, darkness, and rapid climate disruption. Photosynthesis declined. Forests collapsed. Plants that depended on stable conditions vanished. Fruit-bearing species were among the casualties. In the aftermath, surviving flowering plants diversified dramatically. Modern ecosystems began to take shape. The fruits and vegetables known today trace their ancestry to these survivors, but they represent only a fraction of what once existed. The fossil record hints at a far richer world. Paleobotanists study fossilized leaves, seeds, wood, pollen, and reproductive structures preserved in sedimentary rock. Some fossils reveal astonishing detail. Microscopic anatomy can show how tissues developed and how seeds were protected. Comparisons with living plants help reconstruct relationships, but many extinct groups have no exact modern counterpart. Their flavors cannot be sampled. Their chemistry cannot be fully known. Their ecological roles can only be inferred. Some may have been highly nutritious. Others may have been toxic. Some might have possessed textures unlike anything grown in modern agriculture. The crops humans depend on today represent a narrow selection from a much larger evolutionary story. A handful of grasses provide most of the world's calories. A relatively small number of fruits and vegetables dominate global agriculture. Yet prehistoric Earth hosted countless plant forms that never intersected with human history. Some disappeared long before the first hominin evolved. Others survived for millions of years only to vanish. During climatic shifts or extinction events, they were neither failures nor incomplete versions of modern plants. They were successful in their own time. For millions of years, they reproduced, spread, and shaped ecosystems. Then the world changed. Evolution does not preserve what is interesting, beautiful, or potentially useful. It preserves what can survive current conditions. Everything else is vulnerable to extinction. This is what makes the forgotten foods of prehistoric Earth so compelling. They represent lost possibilities, plants that may have offered flavors unknown to science, structures that might have become crops under different circumstances, chemical compounds that could have held nutritional or medicinal properties. But because they vanished, their potential was never realized. The lost foods of Earth also reveal how contingent modern agriculture truly is. Human civilization depends on plants that happened to survive long enough to be domesticated. Wheat, rice, maize, potatoes, and countless fruits are the descendants of lineages that endured repeated environmental upheavals. Had history unfolded differently, the foundations of agriculture might have looked entirely different, or agriculture may have relied on plants that no longer exist. The garden that came before humanity was immense. It stretched across swamp forests, subtropical coastlines, volcanic plains, and ancient continents assembled and torn apart by plate tectonics. It was populated by plants experimenting with reproduction, defense, storage, and dispersal. Some of those experiments became the ancestors of modern crops, most did not. Today, their traces survive as impressions in stone and as distant echoes in living plants. Every fruit and vegetable carries the legacy of that ancient experimentation. Within a berry, a seed, or a tuber lies a history hundreds of millions of years in the making, a history filled with branches that flourished and vanished, the forgotten foods of prehistoric. Earth are reminders that the present is only one surviving outcome among countless alternatives. Entire botanical worlds existed before humanity. They nourished ancient ecosystems, supported extinct animals, and disappeared without ever being cultivated. They were never harvested, never sold in markets, never planted in fields, and never tasted by human beings. Yet their influence remains. In every orchard, every grain field, and every garden, the living descendants of ancient innovations continue a story that began long before agriculture, a story of adaptation, extinction, and survival, a story written not by human intention, but by evolution itself. And somewhere in the fossil record, preserved in silent stone, are the remains of foods that once flourished in a world, untouched by human hands, forgotten forever, but never truly lost.